the country is moving farther to the right because organically some groups of voters are getting right-leaning messaging or anti-democratic messaging. Which is, what did you guys...
It's called being popular and going to where the people are. I'm sorry that the average American isn't waking up and consuming like 60-minute segments or whatever. It's called like being even remotely aware of what people pay attention to these days. You can literally just Google like ratings of ABC, ratings of CNN, and then you can Google how many Americans get their news from YouTube/TikTok. There you go. Congratulations. Democrats, hire me for $500,000 a year, please. I have such wisdom to share with you. Pretty basic stuff.
Sort of see about that group of voters who are hard to reach, and any thoughts you have yet, and I would not blame you for not having them yet, about how we can reach those folks going forward.
Well, I would say a couple of things. This race was, you know, a little different than most anything else. Trump is a different kind of candidate.
Translation, we have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea what went wrong. All of this makes so much sense if you view it from the perspective of like a basic like critical theory framework, like very basic Marxist material forces, you know, a capitalist regression to fascism when it feels threatened, populist strongman. But like it's a very basic political education, one that allows you to understand what's going on here, but they are completely annulled to it. They have no idea.
We had a Democratic candidate get in 107 days out, part of an administration coming out of COVID, inflation, et cetera. You know, Trump never stopped. Trump, you know, obviously it's important to him that he portray this very masculine, strong figure. And so how does that show up for people? It shows up at UFC fights. It shows up with Dana White speaking at the convention. It shows up with the kind of podcasts that he's doing. It shows up in his rhetoric.
Okay. All right. So...
And he's constantly picking a fight and showing that he's going to take something on. I'm not saying we mimic that. We don't want to mimic that. But...
Yeah, wouldn't want to have a spine.
We have to pay attention to why people find that appealing.
Oh my God.
And his use of TikTok and specifically reaching those younger men. I can't tell you how many friends of mine or nieces and nephews would say to me, you know, I'm getting these things from Trump all the time on TikTok.
And you didn't like learn anything from this? This lady, she's probably like, TikTok, whatever. Who's even heard of that?
And they're not political people. They weren't signing up for that stuff, but Trump was reaching them. So there is a lot for us to learn in that. But I will also say a lot of that was very specific to that candidate. You know, in his messaging and...
Oh, well, that's fucking convenient. No, we don't really need to learn any lessons of how we lost because it was like a magic thing specific to Donald Trump, you know? We don't have any... I'm paid $1 million a minute sitting here. We don't really have any like ideas basically on how we lost. It's just he's kind of like magic, basically. A wizard did it. Yeah, that's all we have.
Why that was... while people were open to that messaging... We can go really deep into why, and we can go into a conversation on...
Can we? I feel like I can.
Democrats
Can you?
Are squishy, and, you know, the conversation we just had about transgender, and the conversation that...
The conversation that we just had about transgender, in case you were wondering how authentic the progressive biases of the Democrats' consultants are.
Republicans in the House are trying to make us have on bathrooms right now.
Oh, this is how much they support you, by the way. This is how much the Democrats think of you, trans audience of mine. The conversation they're trying to make it. We don't want to talk about it. We don't really care. You're like, you keep obsessing over these social issues. Like, this is a very normal way to talk about a civil rights issue. You know what I mean? Imagine in the context of like, you know, black civil rights. If the so-called like progressive wing of Washington was like, yeah, I guess like the segregationists are trying to make us talk about this again. Like, you know, the desegregation stuff, or like, you know, the segregationists keep saying like, yeah, let's talk about this. Like, okay, like that sounds very authentic. You're interested in this.
Even that 35-year-old man who finds the masculine rhetoric and TikToks and YouTubers appealing, he still has to pay his kids' childcare bill. Just
remember, the job of these people is to make sure the Democrats don't raise taxes. That's it. What do you think they're talking about when they're in a private consultancy firm working for General Electric? What do you think they're talking about over there? Girl dick? Like you and your Twitter friends? What do you think they're talking about over there? Leninism? No. They are paid well for the job of keeping things the way they are. Of course their solutions are going to be like this.
Democrats are eating our own to a very high degree. And until that stops, we're not going to be able to address a lot of the things that just need to be said. And like for the masculinity piece of it, men don't like people that apologize. I don't know what age bracket.
I don't like politicians who apologize. You think, I'm sorry, is the implication that women like weak politicians? What is the implication here? I don't want a politician to apologize. I want them to believe something, then campaign on that thing, and then win. Why would I want a politician? What for what? Apologize for what?
There is a cultural dynamic that's at play in politics today where it is converging like we've never seen.
And we're losing the culture war.
And we're losing the culture war. And whatever it is, woke, whatever word you want to use, I'm not, I leave that to anybody to define on whatever value. But we are not aligned on where we can be within that because there's always an opportunity. It may be very different for you in your state where you are, but at the end of the day, we're all Democrats. And
what the fuck does this mean? What the fuck does this mean? Have you considered believing something and then having like principled? It literally doesn't even occur to them. It genuinely doesn't even occur to them up here that they might have an issue with sincerity, like believing in something and fighting for that thing. They don't even. It doesn't even occur to them. It's like not even a factor. They're not paid to be sincere. No, they're not. No, they are not.
And I think that people are very advantageous to throw someone else under the bus, a fellow Democrat, if it means...
People say Pod Saves is lib shit like Democrat propaganda. And I contest that because this episode is maybe a more effective anti-DNC consultant rot hit piece than any piece of media you could ever make. I could never make a stream or video essay that contains within it as much material for hatred against them than this. Like, this is more effective than anything else on the internet, possibly.
I think that part of what we have to do as Democrats and on our side is, do the work of having the conversations and reaching people. I just think that is a part of our party and a part of the
that's cool. That doesn't mean
propensity
anything.
That we are trying to reach, that we can reach effectively through programs. At the same time, I think that I think Republicans generally have not had that same challenge because, for the most part, their folks have kind of turned out pretty consistently.
Why? Well, just nothing going on up here, man. Nothing. Yeah, we need to work on reaching people where they are. I don't know why, but Republicans don't have to do that because people keep turning out for them. I don't really know why. Yeah, somehow Republicans have been able to maintain a consistent, even growing base of supporters despite Donald Trump's constant gaffes and errors and less money being spent in a ground game. Significantly less money. I don't really know why. It's like a Civ unique passive. Yeah, it's just like a distinct magical trait that applies to Trump that we can learn no lessons from,
I think Trump, again, is an anomaly. So I would be careful to put tactics to him.
I can't. I legitimately, I am exercising levels of discipline unrivaled in my, I don't even want to talk. Just play it.
That could work for someone else because I'm not sure on his side that that's possible. There's the door knocking, there's the phone calls, there's the texting, there's the ways to reach people. We do that effectively. We know how to do it. We have volunteers. We had extraordinary people that came from all over that were part of the battleground states that did the work, did the trainings. We did contrast at the doors. And
hey, have you learned your lessons from losing to Donald Trump a second time? What are your strategies for reaching out to people? Oh, we've got all the strategies for reaching out to people. We've got phone calls, door knocking, text messages. Wow.
The bottom line is we know, especially in this environment that we're talking about, where people are tuned out to politics, they want to stay away from the chaos of Trump.
And yet, people in a bunch of apolitical, mostly apolitical, media masculine hobby spaces love Trump's presence there. Maybe people aren't actually as tired of Trump as you think. Maybe people don't want to be apolitical as much as you think.
Don't trust institutions. They don't trust parties. How do you reach them? You reach them by people they trust in their own lives. So much of what we were trying to do to get to the young people, not just to talk to them, but to give them the tools and empower them to speak to other people in their lives.
So you mean nothing. You mean we're not going to do any work to reach out to you. Instead, we're going to find some of the most broccoli-haired individuals on college campuses and teach them how to be annoying on social media or something. What are you talking about?
and carry it forward to then be willing to take an action. And that really is going to require more community, more inputs from different...
I don't want to door knock for people like this. Yeah, no, that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. It all comes down to that, because there is basically no difference between how she talks and how Kamala Harris talks. They talk the exact same. It's all consultant, like, bullshit panther speech. It's all HR talk, you know? Who would get excited about this? There's no enthusiasm. There's no drive. No one gives a shit. People can get excited about Trump. It doesn't matter whether or not you think he's good or bad. Fucking truth nuke, he's bad. It doesn't matter whether or not he's a, dictatorial or authoritarian, whatever. Like, that people, they resonate with the message. They want to be enthusiastic about what they're campaigning for. Holy shit, this is so disheartening. They just don't get it at all. None of these people should ever work on another Democratic campaign. These losers should be hiding their heads in paper bags. No wonder Harris lost so badly. Zero sense of guilt or self-reflection. We're not the issue, it's the voters. Summed it up so you guys don't have to watch. As a Democrat, this video radicalized me more than the actual election did. We cannot afford to let these idiots make decisions for us any longer. If I learned anything from this episode, it's that the DNC is going to do the exact same thing in 4 years. Pathetic that they still aren't listening to the opinions of their own party voters. We were successful to a point is the most gaslighting way to say they failed. This interview is like a microcosm of everything wrong with the Dem strategies. Instead of looking at what the voters are saying and taking those criticisms seriously, everyone on the panel is arguing they ran a great campaign and the voters just wouldn't listen, lecturing everyone about why what they did was right and it's not their fault no one listened. Just a reminder, they lost every battleground, presidency, Senate majority, House of Rep, and popular vote. They have no clue why. Insane. Yeah, the Trump is a unique candidate dynamic. Interviewer, what would you do differently? Kamala Harris, nothing comes to mind. Kamala Harris campaign staff, nothing comes to mind. Let me save you 90 minutes. They learned nothing. Stop complaining about Trump spending millions. You guys raised over $1 billion. What the fuck? There was an arrogance, lack of self-awareness, and denial of reality to these interviewees in this conversation that perhaps gives a picture of what was going wrong before Kamala became the candidate they were campaigning for. Hearing one of them refer to people as, quote, regular voters stood out to me as an elitist attitude, also emblematic of a core problem, IMO. Oh my God, the comments weren't wrong. It really is 90 minutes of them congratulating themselves. This is the most delusional interview I've seen in the 2020s. Want to know why she lost? Watch this. Holy smokes. The real question is, how much do they know they're lying? How much are they aware of the fact that they are deliberately hamstringing the Democrats because they will not compromise on corporate messaging? And the God's honest truth is, I think for the most part, I think they think they're being truthful. I genuinely think that this is brain rot, not just like malicious backstabbers who run from corporate job to politics job to corporate job to politics job, but people who, they do that, don't get me wrong, but people who are immersed in a vat of they're in a bubble where they hear these, they only interact with wealthy, powerful people. They only interact with people who are in their own social caste. And as a consequence of that, I think that they're fed this logic. Because keep in mind, they may work all the time with Republicans, but not with MAGA Republicans. They work with the upstanding business Republicans who then go on to vote for Donald Trump. Because the MAGA wing of the party has never been the majority, especially in wealthier circles. Wealthier Republican voters are, for the most part, not like crazy red hat wearing lunatics or whatever. They're sociopath businessmen who will vote for whoever will cut their taxes the most. Trump will, so they vote for Trump. They don't go in on all the crazy populist rhetoric. They don't really care. As long as their portfolio looks good, they're happy. And that, like, being surrounded with people like that is why these consultants are the way they are. It's sickening. It genuinely is. Are they knowingly malicious? Are they just insanely ignorant? I don't know, but I want to think they're doing it deliberately because I find it hard to believe they could be this ignorant. But maybe I'm wrong. It's literally making me sick. It is. It's genuinely sickening. A lot of people are going to suffer and die because of the people in this room. We are looking at the architects of our pain. It's and it seems like, or at least it's very possible, that not only do they not know what happened, but they blame you for the result they caused.